Hey guys, I saw NCT in Houston and I made a Johnny headband, and this is like all the supplies I basically used. And to start it off, I just had some thick paper and I looked up Johnny slogans and I found his name in Korean and I just wrote it out so I could reference it when I start cutting. And here I am just measuring how long and how tall I want it to be. I feel like I made it a bit too big. I did about 4 inches by 3 inches. I definitely suggest doing like 3 by 3 max because I felt like it was really big. So that was my mistake because I didn't make no prototype. I was like, yeah, like let me just make it big because I probably will just cut it down. That was not the case. It was a little difficult to cut it down because I really liked the proportions and sizings of the characters. So that was difficult. I suggest starting off 3 by 3. And going back up to his Korean name, I split it into 3, like, I guess characters, just so it's easier to put it on the headband instead of doing each individual letter. And since the length of my paper did turn out to be 12 inches, I just made a split at every 4 inch just to make sure it's like equal space for every character I do. But most of it did end up cutting down, not too big of a difference, so just keep that in mind when you're working on yours. So once I had them all separated out, I started kind of drawing out his name, and I used a very light colored Sharpie. You can't even see what I'm doing, but I did that so like if I make a mistake, I could kind of just ignore it and keep going. And then after that, I got a darker marker and I just traced the finalization of the shape of the letters that I wanted, and I just went ahead and repeated that for every letter. Hopefully this tutorial is pretty easy and useful for you guys. Before I started making the headband, I didn't really watch too many tutorials. I kind of just saw like images on Google and Pinterest, and I was like, okay, I think this is what I want. I hope my steps aren't too complicated or stupid, unnecessary, because I was honestly just freehanding this whole thing, but I think it turned out really good in the end. You're gonna love it, because I loved it. I was so happy to get to go because honestly they're my ult K-pop group, I swear, and just being able to see them, it was unreal. Johnny looked at me, Jungwoo looked at me, it was amazing. And after this clip, you're gonna see I already cut everything out. I forgot to record, but I mostly just used scissors, and for the circles I used an X-Acto knife, and I actually made 2 different versions. One you could tell is a little bit thinner. I think the green one is a bit thinner, and I was just trying to decide which one I liked better, and I did it in the video. Then I was just deciding which order I wanted the glitter foams to go in, and I think I went with the last combo that I'm doing right here. It turned out pretty good. The layering was cute. And here I'm just trimming off a bit of foam that I can use to put the letters onto and trace them on, and you're gonna see in a bit the placement that I put them in. In my opinion, the placement that you put the letters in right now doesn't matter. I was just filling them in, trying to take up as much space as I could so I don't waste too much of the foam when I cut it, and it worked out pretty good for me. And right here, when I was tracing the letter onto my first layer that would be visible on the headband, I used a light Sharpie. That way, when I cut it out, if any of it's visible, it's not that noticeable. Another thing that I did to make it not noticeable, if I did leave some of them in there when I cut it, was I dotted the letters instead of tracing them. So I just did that for all the letters, and later on I do a close-up so you can see what I'm doing. And if you don't have any light color Sharpies, then I just say do the dotting method. It just made it a lot neater and cleaner for me, and it wasn't too hard following along when I was cutting out, so it shouldn't affect you in any way. And after all the letters, this is how it looked. You could kind of see it a little bit, which is perfect, like you don't want to see it completely. And then I started cutting it out, and I'm gonna skip most of the video footage because do you really need to sit here and watch me cut out all the letters? No! Then I started getting my second layer ready. I went with black just so the white stands out more against the black. I felt like if I put white glitter over green glitter, it'd look too tacky, so the black really helped put like a cushion between those two glitters. And my white glitter foam actually had sticky adhesive on the back of it, and it was pretty good, like it wasn't gonna fly off, so I went ahead and did that. But if you don't have adhesive on yours, you could just hot glue it down. Then after that, I just went ahead and started trimming off the black. I left a thin black border because this was still going to go on top of my green glitter foam as another border, so I wanted to make sure there was enough thickness and room that we could work with. But yeah, for a K-pop concert, that was a really good experience. They even had enough merch, like plenty. When I went to Headband, they were out. So I was very happy I got to go home with something. And now that I'm onto my green glitter foam layer, I made sure that I glued them down in order because from here on out, I'm going to start keeping each letter together. So remember how we kind of separated it into 3 in the beginning? That's what we're doing right now. We're keeping those 3s together. And if you didn't keep yours together, you don't really need to worry because I did another layer. You could always do another layer. This was my final glitter layer before I put it on the actual last backing layer that I would use to glue it onto my headband. And when I started trimming for my green glitter foam border, I made sure to leave it a little thick because I wanted the green to be pretty visible. So once again, that's why I say you should size down to maybe doing 3 inches or maybe start off doing 2.5 inches when you're doing your stencil because it does build up pretty fast. I'm a pretty tall girl, so I just added like 4-5 inches to my height, which probably made it like a 6-foot obscured view. Felt bad for everyone behind me, so I didn't wear it like all concert. Like pretty much when it started, I took it off. Okay, and just a reminder, since we're on our last layer, we're going to want to keep the letters in order. That way, when we cut them out into squares and get them on the headband, we don't have to rearrange anything. So, as you can see, they're in order. I arranged them and I cut them into squares. I just kind of trimmed off any excess black that I didn't want showing, besides the one that's really going to make it pop, especially the cutout in inner parts where the circles are. And then I just got my hot glue gun and I glued some popsicle sticks on. I also painted the popsicle sticks black, just so whenever they're on the headband you can't tell. And I didn't record me gluing them on because I forgot, but we're going to do this one together. Okay, this is really important, as you can see by my finger emphasis. So you see how my letters are spaced out? Well, you want to make sure you stretch the headband to the size of your head and mark where the letters are going to be, because when you put it on, the letters are going to like open, the headband's going to open and the letters hit each other, just like how these are barely touching. So I just put the headband on and I kind of held where the letter would look good, and I just left my thumb there and then just lightly scratched it with my scissors and then checked the spacing again before I finally went in and scratched it up real good. And I just used a pair of scissors. You could use an X-Acto knife or X-Acto blade. I initially tried sanding it off, but sanding it kind of just made it smooth. It didn't really rough it up. So yeah, I just scuffed it up with the scissors. Worked the best. You're gonna try to get the scratches in all directions just so the glue really has like some traction to grip on. And you see the glue leaking off, that's okay. We kind of want that to happen, just not too much, because the glue will spread and it'll just give more surface area for the popsicle stick to stay onto. So once the little glue blob was on, I kind of just held it in position till it dried. It doesn't take too long, it's just hot glue. And then once it dried, I kind of just applied more over on the top part of the popsicle stick, and then once again on the back side, and I did let the glue like kind of just drip to the sides too. And here's a close-up of just how much glue I use, and I feel like that was pretty good and sturdy, and that's how my headband looked. I added some flowers pretty last minute. I just used hot glue and it came out great. This is the fit, the Johnny t-shirt that went viral on TikTok. Some people went and told me hi. It was so fun, had a good time.